So it seems that preparedness, prepping, is going mainstream. Doomsday prepping, they call it, is going mainstream. I'll read you about that. I was kind of surprised to read this article. I guess I shouldn't be, but I was. Welcome to Integrative Preparedness, by the way, and hope you all are doing well. Welcome to all the new people. We have new people joining all the time, so it's good to have you here. As so often happens, I come on with, that's just my laptop dinging messages and things. As so often happens, I sit down to with an idea in mind of what I go down my list, and I say, okay, here's the one I'm going to shoot today, and then I'll check news and I'll check messages on the Patreon channel, and so often, I won't say invariably because that would mean always, so often something comes up and I say, well, I got to do that instead. And so my list just keeps getting longer and longer and longer. Well, a couple of things happened today. I saw one comment. Actually, it was on our members' posts section on the Patreon channel that from Tom Usher, who is our designated, I've designated him our poet laureate over there, and he just, when I can start my day by reading something from Tom, my day starts out right. And those of you who are with us on Patreon know that. Well, he had quite a piece there that I want to do a video on. It deserves its own video, but and it's about essentially what he calls prepper jealousy, and I go along with him on that so 100%. I've talked about it myself, and there definitely is. Then I read an article, it popped up from the Daily Mail, and I'm going to read you a couple of paragraphs of this, and then we'll talk about it. It starts, it's again, like I say, it's from written by Rachel Bowman for dailymail.com. You know, you get a lot of news out of the Daily Mail that you don't get out of ours. And, I'm not going to say that everything that comes out of them is 100%, but, you get a lot of stuff out. Anyway, the headline is this: Doomsday prepping goes mainstream. Bug-out bags fly off shelves as a third of Americans admit to buying survival kits amid Armageddon fears. Now that might surprise many of you. It surprised me when we think about what a small percentage of the population are actually preppers. And we might have that wrong. I've said this before, that you would be surprised how many people are into preparedness. And, I'll get a lot of comments from people, well, I can't find anybody around me that's into preparedness and all this. And I've even made a video on this. They're all around you. When I came out with my first book, clear back in 2017, The Reversion, I couldn't believe, and I live in the suburbs, not the inner suburbs, but the outer suburbs of a very large city. And I couldn't believe, when my book came out and people found out that I had written that book, I couldn't believe how many people came out, as it were, of their preparedness closet and started telling me all the things they had done to prepare, showed me a lot of their preps. Now, we are not talking about people, who live rurally or who live on a farm, or who many people would think would be, self-sufficient. And surprisingly, a large number of those are not. But these are people who live in suburbs. We're talking $1 million to $2 million houses. Now, right there, some people are going to come up, and here's what Tom was talking about: prepper jealousy. And not all of them do. The $300,000, $400,000 houses on up. That's what I was meant. The kind of person, my point is, that most people would not see as preppers. And not to walk all over Tom's piece, which I suggest everyone go read. Again, it's in the member post section of our Patreon channel. If you're not with us on Patreon, like I said, you should be. It's only $1 a month, and the link is down below. I have put up the second chapter of the Audible of my second book, The Revival. That's on the next level. If you want to hear me read, if you want to hear the book read by the author, go to the Stone Mount level over there. But I want to continue on this, and I'll tell you more about the books in a little bit. But I suggest you read Tom's piece. Well, I'm not going to let myself get drawn into that right now. But like I say, you would be surprised, you would be amazed at how many people have taken at least some steps toward preparedness. And I will make this observation, I won't call it a claim, I'll make it an observation that in my experience, and I know a great number of people from all walks of life, city, suburban, rural, small town, everything from, all the whole gamut of occupations as well, from very low, to be honest, to very high. And I don't say that in a way that if somebody works with their hands, they're low. What I mean is the kind of low achievers. Let me put it that way. But I, from my own experience, I believe there is a higher percentage of preppers, as you would call them, in the suburbs or in the middle level than in rural areas. To be honest, it was surprising to me. It's probably surprising to you, and there's probably some out there going, "Oh no, there's not." Well, oh yes, there is. From a guy who has actually written the books and done it. So anyway, I'm going to read this here, and we're going to kind of come back and talk about it. So the article starts, Americans spent a staggering $11 billion on survival items in just 1 year as a third admitted to doomsday prepping, a survey has found. A third. Can you believe that? Most of us think it's, 5%, something like that. Well, a third people, now these aren't long-term preppers. These aren't people who have been in it for a while. These are people who are getting into it because of the increasing instability of the world. Okay, good. That's what we want, right? The more people there are prepared out there, the less the danger they are to the rest of us. So it says here, the average prepper spent $149 on supplies in the year to April 2023, with the most common items. Now that's surprising because a lot of us, we spend a lot, we think $149, that's nothing. And you're right, it is nothing compared to what most of us spend. A lot of us spend that in a week, right? Some in a day. But $149. Now you're going to understand in a minute why it's $149. Okay. I'll cover this and then we'll get back to it. The most common items: food and water, toilet paper, medical supplies, and survival kits, according to Finder. Okay. Finder surveyed 2,179 people, and the one-third who said they are preparing for the end of the world was a jump from the 20% who admitted to taking precautions in 2020. I'm surprised it was 20%. Well, maybe I'm not, because 2020 is when all that stuff hit, isn't it? Yeah. So if they're considering people who bought extra toilet paper as in this, well, a lot of people did. Okay, the image of what an end-of-the-world disaster prepper looks like, however, has changed. Here's the interesting part. Since the COVID-19 pandemic saw essential supplies flying off shelves and a plethora of natural disasters. About 40% of Gen Z said they spent money on doomsday supplies, just beating millennials at 39%. Now that's amazing. Now again, here it is. What do you consider doomsday supplies? Extra batteries? Whatever. But anyway, this is I'm amazed at that. But maybe I shouldn't be, because I have teenage kids, and I see that they are thinking, as you might suspect that my kids would, since I'm a writer and I write about this stuff and I do this stuff. They're more attuned to survival and preparedness than most kids. But when I hear about their friends also seem to be a little bit attuned to this. And we're talking about middle school and high school kids. Okay, so let me repeat that for just a second and we'll continue. About 40% of Gen Z said they spent money on doomsday supplies, just beating millennials at 39%. And this is a surprise. This will be a surprise to a lot of the what I call preparedness bigots who are always saying, oh, the younger generation, they're just on their screens, they're just on their phones, they're on their this and their tech and all that kind of stuff. Hey, we live in a technological world, and people who keep up on tech, I'm always going for help to people who keep up on tech. There is nothing wrong. As a matter of fact, keeping up on tech can be an important part of preparedness. Just ask Mike Hoskins over on Patreon and many other people. Okay, he's on our Patreon channel. Alexandria Edwards, 28, keeps a bug-out bag in her New York City apartment after she saw videos about emergency preparedness on social media. Here again, a lot of us will say, well, a bug-out bag, you're in New York City in an apartment. If everything falls apart, you ain't getting very far, right? Okay, that's the way we feel. That's the way those of us who have been involved in preparedness for, 5, 10, 20 years, in my case, 50 years. Feel about it. We know. But it shows the thought processes that people are thinking a certain way, and that's the important thing. She says, it's actually for a family of 4, but I was like, you know what? Better to be safe, she said of her bag to the Wall Street Journal. Yes, that's right. So preparedness is being covered in the Wall Street Journal. Companies that specialize in making prep packs, which have seen increased sales over the years and mainstream popularity. And I'll be honest with you, I have problems with these ready-made preparedness packs. A lot of the stuff that they put in there is silly. A lot of it is superfluous. I love it when it's all, color matched and everything. So, whatever. And we know that people who buy those things, they have not gone through the process, the thought process of putting it together themselves, which is an important. That process itself is an important part of the preparedness process. You have to learn. You have to do it yourself. So I've always had kind of a problem with those ready-made kits. But hey, it's better to have one than not have one if you're not going to do it yourself. And at least, like I say, it's getting people into that thought process. Okay, the brands Preppy and Judy, I never heard of either one of those, and you're about to hear why, okay, which have been listed in Oprah's favorite things list. I bet you all watch Oprah as much as I do, which is nothing, right? For years, forever. I don't watch Oprah. I'm sorry if there's anybody out there that loves Oprah, well, no, I'm not. So let me start. The brands Preppy and Judy, which have been listed in Oprah's favorite things list, these are a few of my favorite things, offer basic kits starting at about $100 to ultra-advanced kits worth thousands. Yeah, I bet. I've seen some of the kits out there being prepackaged and sold, either big prepper kits or medical kits or things like this, and the prices are outrageous. The core of every Preppy kit, Preppy is a brand name, is a military-grade 3-day supply of food and water with a 5-year shelf life as outlined by survival experts and government agencies. Preppy's website said. I love that, military grade. Don't you love how often that's spread around, military grade? Preppy reported year-to-date sales up 29% from 2022, and Judy said their sales quadrupled in June when the wildfire smoke covered the Northeast. Okay, as always, I'll post a link to that whole article. I'll stop right there, but I'll post a link to that when I put this video over on the Patreon channel. Okay. Preparedness goes mainstream. Now, what is that? What is that an indicator of? It's an indicator, in my mind, And I'll say this right now. After I'm done with this, I'm going to shoot a video for the American Reversion channel asking the question, is America over? Is America over? I'm going to address that. But this is an indication of an increasing understanding on the part of many, up to 40% of Gen Z, is that what they said? That the world is not going in the direction it ought to be. That it is an increasingly threatening environment. That things can happen, before you know it. That there are threats out there in the world, and you need to take part in your own preparedness. Okay, and what this makes, and even if it's a little bit, they're headed in the right direction. So this idea that most people are clueless and most people are this and which we get from what I used to call blue collar bigotry, because I was always amazed at how many, and it's not the majority at all, not the majority. I was always amazed at those of what's usually called blue collar, and I think that's an unfortunate. The working man. There's not a darn thing wrong with They want to split the world, and many of these people do too, into whether you work with your hands to make a living, or you work mainly in an office and sit at a desk and work with your mind. Okay. And that's an unfortunate division right there, because people who work with their hands use their minds too. And some of the smartest people I've ever known are mechanics and carpenters and tradespeople. Okay. But it's just one of those things that I think society has. It's just another societal wedge that people put in there. I have never, and the reason that I came up with this blue collar bigotry idea years and years ago, because I never heard a person, who made their money in business and things like that. I never heard them put down people who made their money in the trades, or had their name etched in their shirt. I never heard any of them put them down. Matter of fact, I heard great compliments about, man, this guy can fix stuff that's blah. But I heard a lot coming from the other direction of those who consider themselves the working man, the this and that. And they were always making fun of, college boys. He went to college. He doesn't understand anything. He doesn't know squat, And I heard a lot of that blue-collar bigotry. And, I think a lot of it, Tom addresses this in his piece that he put up there. He calls it prepper jealousy. Well, he didn't call it prepper jealousy, but he called it jealousy. And I think that's exactly right. And I think it's unfortunate. Okay. So the reason that I put that in there is because I know that we're going to get a lot of people. They'll say, these Gen Zs and these Gen Xers and these, whatever, what are they? Millennials and all these. They don't know squat, and they're buying their stuff off the shelf and all this. And, stop it. Just stop. If you are one of those, and we don't have a lot of those on here because I've gotten rid of most of them over the years. But if you are one of those who thinks that, stop it. Because why are you putting these people down when what you should be doing is saying, hey, good job, you're finally getting tuned up. Okay? You're finally getting tuned up. You're understanding that there are threats in the world. You're starting to take responsibility for your own preparedness. See what I mean? And it's great. We need to get rid of these separations between these false differences. Whether it's societal, that one guy has his name etched on his shirt and works on cars, and another guy works in a hospital and repairs hearts. They had different interests. They decided to go different ways. Actually, I've known surgeons, and they're not necessarily smarter than mechanics that I've known. But people have different interests in their lives, and it's the same when we think about preparedness. So, there are those, and I'm not going to step on what Tom said. It was an excellent article. But we need to feel good. We need to be supportive of this expanding understanding of the need for preparedness. Okay, I think that it's a great indicator of one thing, which is the understanding of personal responsibility and preparedness, and then an indicator of how more and more people are starting to understand how fragile our systems are, and they are not going to depend on daddy government, and they're taking more responsibility for themselves. So if that describes you, if you were just newly getting into preparedness, good for you. Don't let anybody. You'll occasionally see comments on, not so much on my channel, but sometimes. If you're not prepared, it's too late. You're just going to die. Anybody who hasn't prepared up to now, I'm not giving them a single grain of rice. They don't deserve to live. Oh, for crying out loud. I see, and when I see things like that, I delete them because they're just an asshat. But, so don't worry about that. If you're just now getting into preparedness, good for you. If you are a more advanced prepper, preparedness-minded person, whatever, I think all of us should feel good about this idea that doomsday prepping is going more mainstream. Now, is there going to be ebb and a flow on this? Of course there is. What brought more people to prepping than anything else besides Y2K, right? And that didn't really bring a lot. Doomsday preppers. Right? Which in many cases was a good show, in many cases was a stupid show. They tried to make people, they showed a lot of good ideas. They also tried to make people look silly. And, but while that actually kind of made preppers look stupid, or wacky or nuts, it also brought a lot of people into prepping when they realized, maybe these are things that I should do. And then, of course, that zombie show. Yeah. But then it peaked, and then it ebbed, and then it peaked. So we're going to see an ebb and a flow on this. But anytime these things happen, as life gets dicier, you're gonna see more people understanding. It's kind of like the big toilet paper thing years ago. Well, when you couldn't get toilet paper, you see, I didn't understand. A lot of people came on and started making fun of people who were buying a lot of toilet paper. Why would you make fun of those people? Why? Do you not care about living with toilet paper? I know it seems silly, but for crying out loud, when you think about the most mundane things that makes our life, a little easier, toilet paper is one of them. So, I never understood, and this goes into that prepper bigotry too, I think, that, they ought to be able to use, leaves and straw, and, what silliness is that? If there's shortages on toilet paper, any sane person is going to go out there and try to stock toilet paper, So you'll see this kind of stuff on some channels. Don't listen to it. They're silly. So anyway, I found that interesting. Thought you would too. What I'd be interested in hearing, and probably everybody else would too, is what people do you know? Or first off, at what stage are you in your preparedness journey? Secondly, do you know people who have recently gotten involved or become more cognizant of the fact that the world can be a shaky place, and they need to take a few more steps to ensure they're going to be okay when the next shake comes, right? I'd be interested to know that. It'd make it great. So leave that in the comments. And for those of you who are new to prepping, good for you. Welcome. Don't let anybody make you feel, less because you haven't been in it for 20 years. And those of us who have been in it for a long time, I think we can feel good about the fact that more people getting into it. That is great. To bring this to a close, I want to remind you that this and all my videos are brought to you by the Stonemont series, my books of 6 novels, actually: The Reversion, The Revival, The Renewal, and Appeal to Heaven, The Blessings of Freedom, and Hostages to Fortune. And what they are, in novel form, is the complete plan for preparing for surviving and rebuilding after a total collapse of everything. People have been learning from these since 2017 all around the world. As I've come to often say now, because it has surprised me so much, I get messages from people that say they have read through the entire series 5 and 6 times and still find lessons in there that they missed the first 4 or 5 times, because that's what it's all about. It really was a lesson plan, kind of, written in novel form, and a great story. You're going to love the people and the situations and all that. I talk about, families and societies and communities and tactical situations, bad people and how we take care of the bad people, and you'll enjoy that. Anyway, you can get them on Amazon if you'd like, but the best way to get them is through me, through our website, and both of those links will be down below in the information box or a pinned comment. Through our website, stonemont.us. Stonemont. See that? Stonemont.us. Yeah, you can also get cups there if you'd like, and t-shirts and stuff like that. But if you haven't read them, you'll enjoy them. You'll get a lot out of it. And to remind you that I'm now in the process, I've already put the Audible of The Reversion up on the Stonemont level of the Patreon channel. So when you come to us on the Patreon channel, you'll see there's a entry level. It's $1 a month. And then there's the Stonemont level that there's a lot more stuff on. And there's a lot more stuff on the regular Patreon level than there is on YouTube. So it's just kind of a, stair step, however you want to do it. And so the complete Audible of The Reversion is on the Stonemont level of the Patreon channel. And now I am going through the Revival. And just put up, we have the introduction and chapter 1 and chapter 2. And I'll probably be doing chapter 3 either today or tomorrow. We'll keep going until we're done with that. And then we will get to the renewal. And then we will get to an appeal to heaven. And then I'm reading them backwards. And then we will get to the blessings of freedom. And then we will get to hostages to fortune. So, yeah, I don't know when we'll get done with all that, but we'll get done with it. And yes, I'm writing the 7th one right now. Okay. I think this is very interesting, what we talked about today. I think that it's great that more people are understanding the importance of preparedness and assuming that responsibility on themselves. It sometimes takes great, instability in the world to get people to thinking about that, and that's good, because the world is always unstable. Most people just don't realize it, right? So anyway, look forward to your comments. Remember that we prepare well today in order to live well tomorrow, and I'll talk to you probably tomorrow. Bye-bye.